Welcome back. Our next group of 4 Family Business Achievement Award honorees begin with Firedex. Firedex is a family-owned global manufacturer of head-to-toe personal protective equipment, PPE, for first responders and an independent service provider of PPE care and maintenance. The company was founded in 1983 and is led by owner and CEO Bill Burke. Firedex extended its ability to serve and support the fire community with the acquisition of 3 major brands, Chieftain, TechGen, and Gearwash. In addition to its Medina headquarters, it has facilities in Wisconsin, Georgia, and Mexico. Bill brought the 2nd generation into the company last year when his daughters Taylor and Lauren came aboard. Congratulations, Firedex.
Congratulations to Fleet Response. Ron Milwaukee Sr. founded Fleet Response in 1986 in Cleveland as Rental Concepts, Inc. The goal was to manage temporary business rentals. But in 2003, the company combined with IVS to create Fleet Response, which offers comprehensive custom fleet services to clients with fleets ranging from 50 to 25,000 vehicles. Currently led by President and CEO Scott Milwaukee, Fleet Response maintains a family-like culture. They've got beliefs that are focused on employee and customer satisfaction. That combination of people and culture gives the company its most powerful source of competitive advantage, striving to meet the needs of its customers and its 180 plus employees. Congratulations.
Our next recipient is Lake Business Products. In 1960, Jack Slattery started Lake Business Products in the garage of his Mentor home to sell and service office copiers and supplies. He expanded into microfilming services to give clients a tool to manage their documents. In 2008, current president and CEO and 10,000 Small Businesses alumna Terry Kane took over the company after her father's passing. Under her leadership, the company offers leasing services and recently implemented a new process called NetShield, offering greater network security, stability, and continuous network optimization for its clients. Lake Business Products today has more than 120 employees, and Terry's son, representing the 3rd generation of Kanes, has gotten involved in the company as a college student. Congratulations, Lake Business Products.
Congratulations to Majestic Steel USA. Majestic was founded in 1979 by Dennis Lebo, the 3rd generation in a prominent steel family. He grew Majestic from a single service center in Northeast Ohio to become a national presence as a leading distributor and processor of flat-rolled steel, supplying thousands of customers in HVAC, manufacturing, and construction. His youngest son, Todd, grew up around the family business and joined Majestic in 2007. He oversaw supply chain management when he joined the company. But since becoming president and CEO in 2012, he's led the company through a generational transition. He has an eye towards growth, diversification, and innovation. Now, Dennis remains active as chairman, and Todd's brother, Jonathan, is EVP, who oversees community involvement and philanthropic efforts. And their sister, Joni, works as the brand coordinator. They hope to eventually pass the business on to their children. Congratulations.
Now it's time for our Family Business Owner-Operated panel.
Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to discuss what does it take to build a business that can stand the test of time. We've got a great panel for you today, and I want to introduce them to you. So first, let's meet our panel. First, Richard Seaman, chairman of Seaman Corp. Then Marcella Cox, co-owner and vice president of E.F. Boyd & Son. And finally, Mark Sandridge, the CEO of Sandridge Food Company. We're going to spend about the next 30 minutes having a conversation about these family businesses. You can learn a little bit more about them, as well as what they've done to get to this point and what they're doing to continue into the future to build these businesses built to last. Marcella, I want to start with you. And the first topic is going to be around positioning your organization for both today and the future. So tell us a little bit where E.F. Boyd is today and how did you get here?
Okay, well, first, I just want to thank Smart Business for the opportunity to be on this panel. And we were blessed to have a grandfather who had an instinctive ingrained entrepreneurial spirit in 1905 when there were very few opportunities for a Black man to enter into business. So he opened actually a combination funeral parlor and haberdashery. He was able to maneuver through the 1918 pandemic and the Great Depression before he died in 1944. And without a doubt, the road was very rough for him, but he had a burning desire to serve his people and prepare their loved ones for a proper burial. So serving his neighbors and church family was extremely important to him. He was very active in his church, had a very strong faith. And that emphasis in the value of serving the needs of the public and the value of funeral service was shared by my grandmother, then was passed down to my father, our father, who joined his father in the mid-1930s, and our mother, who joined in the 60s. My brother also joined the family business in the 60s, myself in the 70s, my sister and two nieces in the 80s. So we represent right now 4 generations of the family in our business. So we all got the message of serving the public, creating beautiful homegoing services. And customer service was what we live by and breathe for our families, our staff, and our community. My dad always taught me that if you serve the needs of the public, they will in turn support you. So we've been very blessed. Our main location has been at 89th and Steer since 1938 in the Midtown corridor. And we opened another location in 1972 in East Cleveland, but that was sold in 2015. But in 1996, we opened a location in Warrensville Heights. We added a crematory in 1988, which is way far ahead of its time. Right now, we have roughly 25 full-time employees and 15 part-time. So for 115 years, we're still serving. And we're proud to say that we're the oldest African-American business in the county and one of the oldest in the state. So we've been very blessed. We have, sorry about that. We have, again, 4 generations, and, we love, and we have a passion for the funeral business.
That's great. Mark, I want to turn to you and have you tell a little bit about the story of what you've been able to do over at Sandridge. Where are you today and how did you get to this point?
Well, thanks, Dustin, once again, and Smart Business for recognizing the Sandridge Food Corporation and its history. I'll provide you a little bit of history about the company, but the couple of questions that you ask, where are you business-wise and where are you going, the roadmap, I'd like to hit those 2 points also. Today, Sandridge is a food manufacturing company in Medina, Ohio. If you picture yourself walking through the grocery store like Giant Eagle or Heinen's or Mark's or Acme, and you walk back to the deli department, and the prepared foods like pasta salads and chicken salads and potato salads, and there's another 40 products in the case. That's where you'll find us. You'll also find us on the salad bar, where you see at the end where you see fresh soups being offered. And then you walk over to the hot foods case, and you'll see mac and cheese and grilled chicken breast and products like that. We're a national company. We sell product to Kroger, Whole Foods, Costco. We ship them from Seattle to LA, from Boston to Miami. In fact, if you had a family gathering this past weekend, you might have bought some grandma's potato salad and for your picnic or your gathering, and that's our brand. So how big is our company? We produce about 1.5 million to 2 million pounds of salads and soup a week. And I get a chance to work with about 600 people in our Medina facility, about 100 people in our Morton, Illinois facility. The business began with Vince Sandridge, our father, who was a guy that grew up in West Virginia, joined the Army, went to war, came home, met my mom, and within 2 weeks got married. And once again, just like Marcella's company, had a burning desire to build something for himself. Now, it took him about 15 years working multiple jobs before he got his first start in 1965. And he was talking to a buddy about a meat processor in Chicago that wanted to branch out and come to the Northern Ohio market. So Dad met with this Carl Buddig Meat Company. And when he left the meeting, the Buddig folks gave him 3 route trucks and free product for a year to fund his startup business, all on a handshake. And, today that doesn't happen very often. So in the early years, it was pretty lean, okay. But in 1976, I graduated from Ohio State with a food science degree and joined the company. And then in the next 20 years, Dad and I got a chance to work together. And during that time, my very supportive wife, we had 2 sons, and they went to school, graduated, and wanted to join the company. So that created 3 questions. And primarily it is about, do I start planning for selling the company? Or do I create a succession plan? Well, I really didn't want to sell the business, so that was the answer to that. Were the guys serious about the business? So Mom and Dad requested that they go back and get another level of education. Jordan had graduated with a food technology degree from Ohio State. He went back and got his master's degree in business. Dane had gotten an economics degree from Wittenberg University, and he went to the CIA. The CIA is the Culinary Institute of America, the foremost school for culinary arts. So I guess they were serious. And then the third one was, will they be qualified in the future? And I thought that was my responsibility, and I didn't want to fail them. So far, Dane's 36 and Jordan's 38 years old, and I think they're right on track. So a little bit about your question on when you talk about the accessing the business, where are we? Okay. So I do that from a couple of perspectives. I take financially, I let my bank help me and the management team at the bank, and we use PNC, help compare our metrics against other clients that the bank has that are similar in size and manufacturing based and also family owned. Now, there aren't exact comparisons, but we get the ranges, and that helps sort through it. I look at our people metrics, our turnover in each area of the business, and we monitor that and how much training each department's getting. The productivity metrics were we invested in an ERP system about 4 years ago, and it was very painful, but today I know what happens and why it happens, and it helps the priority of what we're going to go fix. Last year alone, we saved about $1.6 million just in efficiencies and waste reduction. And the roadmap going to the future, listen, it's really about, for us, understanding what we're deeply passionate about. And for us, it's about unrivaled fresh food that customers crave. And then also understanding what we can be the best in the world at, and then understanding how to communicate and what drives our economic engine.
That's great, Mark, and we're going to dive a little bit more into some of those future details in a little bit. Richard, tell us a little bit about Seaman Corporation. How did you get to where you are today, and and where is today?
Well, thank you, Dustin. I'm again honored to be on this program with Marcella and Mark. Like Marcella and Mark's business, our business was started by an entrepreneurial ancestor. It was my father who was in the war in World War II, flew a B-24 in the Pacific. And after the war, he sort of bounced around a bit looking for what he wanted to do, but had a very entrepreneurial spirit. So in 1949 in Canal Fulton, Ohio, with 2 sewing machines in a basement, he and my mother started our business sewing lace around baby doll diapers, which was the start of the business. It was a cut and sew operation. He had been a subcontractor for the major rubber companies in the Akron area. And by developing products or working with products, he generated an interest in vinyl coatings, because some of the products that he was producing for the rubber companies were made out of vinyl. And he would experiment trying to make different vinyl compounds, doing this in my mother's kitchen, mixing these compounds up, sticking them in the oven to cure them, then put them in the freezer to see if they stay flexible in cold weather. He thought you could take these vinyl compounds that were emerging in the 1950s and combine them or coat them on the emerging nylon fabrics at that time, and build or produce a coated fabric that could replace canvas truck tarps. So he built some old coating equipment. At this point, he moved our business to Millersburg, Ohio, had a small facility there, built a coating line, and started manufacturing fabrics for truck tarps. The first year, he made 16,000 yards of fabric, sold it to a tarp manufacturing company, and within the first year, it all failed. He found out he had missed putting an ultraviolet light inhibitor in, but what he did was replace all of that fabric at no cost to the customer. Now, if you think about a starting business, struggling business, and having the ethical standard of giving good quality to your customer, that was a real challenge for that growing business, but it set the foundation block for both customer quality and customer service for our business that continues today. Over the next many years, my dad developed products for a lot of outdoor applications, and I grew up in that business, went to college at Bowling Green State University, graduated in 1968. At that time, we were doing around $2 million a year in business in coated fabrics. For the next 10 years, we worked together, grew it to about 10 million. And unfortunately, in 1978, my father passed away of lung cancer prematurely at the age of 55. Wow. So we grew the business, as I said, to $10 million. And we've continued to grow. Today, we manufacture high performance fabrics for truck tarps, architectural fabrics, air supported structures, military applications, environmental applications, and single ply roofing products. We actually buy the yarn, we weave the fabrics together, we develop our own coating compounds and coat these particular specific fabrics for unique high performance applications. I always like to say that today we actually sell fabric into China instead of importing it from China. We have two manufacturing operations, one in Worcester, Ohio here, and another one in Bristol, Tennessee. We have over 350 associates around the country, and we're doing today somewhere between $175 to $200 million in growth. We do this by staying focused on, first of all, our human resource development, having a strong management team and good associates that work for us. We stay focused on this spirit of entrepreneurship and innovation that my father had, and we have a very robust strategic planning process. We've also built strong governance process and good shareholder education programs.
Excellent. Thank you. You know, Richard, it sounds like you guys have really positioned it just like Mark. You've got the company in a good position to move forward into the future with the things that you're doing. Marcella, you know, you mentioned a little bit about all these family members that are part of the company these days. You've also diversified into some different areas as well. Talk a little bit about how you've identified some of these different services that you guys offer that's positioned you to be able to compete and thrive.
Well, right now, especially with COVID, it has really pushed us to another dimension to, especially with cremation being so important right now. A lot of people are selecting cremation over burial. So it has forced us, especially right now with the pandemic, to do what we call the virtual services, just like we're doing here with this panel. So we have live streaming. We do a lot of live streaming on services that we never, it was available, but you know, our families didn't gravitate toward it. They really didn't want to use it. So now the live streaming has become important, and so has things like, let's say, let me see. We're doing more advertising, like through SEO and Google ads. Things, you know, our funeral business is probably one of the last to embrace technology. I mean, we're kind of person-to-person, relationship-based, and so it's just forced us to use technology more. And we even do the Zoom meetings now when we do arrangements with families. It's kind of, you know, hard for families to adapt to, but it's just pushed the envelope for us, and that's what we're doing now.
Sounds like you're well positioned. Yeah, I want to turn a little bit towards the people in the organization. You've all mentioned different relatives that are part of the company. Mark, I want to come back to you. You talked a little bit about your two boys. I know, do the three of you together plot the future for the company and really work together to figure out where you're headed? Mark, you're still muted, please.
Yeah, we did. They were very instrumental in. I have a group of advisors, personal advisors that have helped create the direction for the future of the company. In order for us to survive, you know, our business is really about, my responsibility is about trying to share with these young managers, how they can be stewards of our culture and our core values. My job with these young folks is to provide an environment that's going to improve their business IQ. And then I look to surround the two boys with talented people that we wanted to be around. And then we would hire them and then invest in them. And survival-wise, there was a big problem. There's a 30-year gap between Generation 2 and G3. So I hired a psychologist, Dr. Cecil Bergen, to help me bridge the communications gap between the generations. And Dr. Cecil specializes in succession planning. And then the second part of the problem was the growth of our, when we grew from 50 to 100 to 150 million, and now we're not 200 million sales. I knew that at that point I needed some different skill sets and different systems. Therefore, I set out to build a non-family team of professional managers. And their goal was to guide and teach these two young minds. That was their job first. And then to run the business secondly. And if they were willing to do that, they would be well compensated for it. And at their retirement, there would be a carrot for them. So it was a win-win situation for all three of us.
Excellent, thanks. Richard, how about on your end? How have you approached it with the next generation of people?
Well, I had an interesting experience early in my career. As I mentioned, my father passed away when he was 55. There were 5 children in my generation, and they all were involved in the business. But my father had created operations in Ohio, Tennessee, as well as Sarasota, Florida. And the other 4 siblings lived in Florida. It was a struggling division down there. Once my father passed away, there was a lot of family support for my leadership. However, there was 1,000 miles that separated us geographically, even though it was all the same business. Over the course of time, we experienced what most family businesses do, and a variety of things that caused polarization around the direction of the business and what we were doing. The end result of that was some challenging family kinds of issues, but in 1994, my family requested that I buy them out. So I bought my 4 brothers and sisters out and my mother out at that point. Family succession, business succession became a separate situation. My wife and I, Judy, had 3 children, 2 daughters and a son. They had seen all the family turmoil during that time period and really didn't want to have anything to do with a family business. So we started looking at what would succession look like. We were fortunate to find a consultant, a man named John Ward, who's sort of been a guru about family business succession, and engaged him. And he taught us about this concept of family stewardship, active family shareholders, where your children did not have to play a career in the business, but still wanted to own the business. And that's sort of the model that we started. It requires a really strong, robust outside board of directors, which we had already started, which was great for us. But then it was educating our children about the value of owning a family business and continue on the tradition of their ancestors, including, my father who started the business. Fortunately, they saw their role as, stewards of this treasure that provided economic opportunity for, well over 200 or 300 other families. And they've been actively involved as shareholders and in the governance process, even though their day-to-day responsibilities or career directions are not in the business itself. And that seems to be working, fortunately, so very well for us at this stage of the game.
So Marcella, 4th generation, you've got a lot of family members that are either in the business or partial owners of the business. Talk about how that's set up and what's the next generation look like?
Well, again, right now, like you said, there are 4 generations of us. My brother, sister, and I are principal majority owners, and then my 2 nieces are minor shareholders right now. We are in process of talking about the transition. We haven't really, kind of bridged that gap yet. It's a very, very sensitive a delicate kind of conversation. And so we've employed different consultants over the years, but it's really very, very sensitive. Right now, we don't have any very younger family members who are interested in coming in the business, but Lord knows, you never know what's going to happen. And we're leaving the hope that they might want to come in the business. But my dad never impressed on any of us to follow him. He made it our choice. And, the three of us joined, my mother joined, but so many now, the younger folks, they have the opportunities to do other things. And so maybe at some point, they'll see the real importance of carrying on this legacy. I mean, we've been around 115 years. We'd like to be around here longer, but God willing, we just got to. We're putting it in the Lord's hands. That's all I can say right now.
Yeah. Do you have conversations with those folks? I mean, do you have family meetings? We bring together the folks to talk about the company.
Yes, we do. We meet as an executive management team, which is myself, my brother and sister, and we have our controller, who brings a lot to the table because he comes from a corporate background. So he's really been able to share a lot of valuable information with us. We also have our management team, which includes all 5 family members, and our controller and our the gentleman who heads what we call our care center. So we all sit down and go over plans for the business. But again, it's a rocky road, and I can't deny it's a very, very delicate dance.
I'm sure, it's one of those things where you've got multiple family members, you've got different generations, and everybody's really thinking along the same lines.
Right.
Getting them on the same page is tough.
Yeah, as was mentioned earlier, I think by both gentlemen, it's best to bring maybe in an outsider to help kind of navigate this, but it's just been very delicate. But I'm sure we'll get there. We're all very passionate about the business, but maybe we're talking different languages. Younger folks talk a little different than we do as senior members, and bridging that conversation sometimes it just needs some outsiders with us. Yeah.
No, it sounds like you're on the right path. Mark, I want to come back to you for a moment, make sure we've got you unmuted. I want to ask you, with your 2 boys, you've talked about these things of getting them groomed. Have you started to instill upon them what it's like if they're going to take over an ownership at some point?
Oh, certainly, yeah. They get a dose of that almost daily. So, I use I personally have an advisory board of 3 people. That's an estate attorney and a retired president of an accounting firm, and then I have an expert on human feelings, the people person that guide me and make me think about those discussions and how to prepare for those discussions with the boys. And fortunately, I have this non-family president who has the powers to make the changes that they have to. They report to them, or the boys report to Rick, and he's got all the responsibility, and he's responsible for the strategic planning process and all the points of accountability for the annual plan and the 3-year plan. So they get a dose of an outside person holding them responsible, and then personally, I meet with the senior executive team, which is 6 people. Which sets the policies and presents the challenges for discussion on an every 4-week basis. So that keeps me tuned into their challenges and keeps me abreast of current things, and I give them a little bit of guidance from time to time.
That's great. Richard, I want to move back over to you a little bit on this. And you've talked about all these components you've done, how you've kind of professionalized the business with some of your outside boards of advisors, as well as your consultants. You've also written a book on family businesses as part of this too, haven't you? And I'd be interested in, as we wrap up this piece of the conversation and then end on the future of where you're all headed, be interested in what other advice you might have from your research on the book.
Well, thank you, Dustin, for mentioning that. I think the kinds of issues that both Marcella and Mark have talked about are the same kind of issues that I struggled with for years. And some of that was expedited, as I said, because my father passed away at a really premature age. And I was faced with many of these types of polarizing issues and dynamic issues around the family business. So when I retired 5 years ago as an active CEO of our company, I did take the time to reflect and think about lessons learned and how I might put this down. And the end result of that, after a 2.5-year effort, was the book. It's called A Vibrant Vision, the entrepreneurship of multi-generational family business. It's a little bit unique in the sense that it talks about the kind of processes you put in place to grow a business, whether it's human resource development, innovation, strategic planning. But then it talks about how you make those decisions with a specific desire to pass the business on to future generations, not to develop an exit strategy. And if you think about wanting to do it on a multi-generation business basis, you will make these strategic decisions differently. So this is what I tried to capture both in how I wrote the book, but then subsequent chapters around governance and shareholder education and balance in life in doing that. So it's a complicated piece. It's not easy to make all this happen. There's over 6 million family businesses in the United States today. And you always have this saying about shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. So you really are swimming uphill to try to create a multi-generational family business that you effectively pass on to future generations, particularly if the children don't want to have their careers in the business or if they're not capable. And again, part of that problem is trying to teach them that ownership of a family business is a true treasure, and it's a responsibility not of entitlement, but a responsibility of stewardship.
And Richard, as we wrap up and we come back around, I'm interested in, as you've done those things, as you've taken moved out of day-to-day leadership role for the company and are now chairman, where's the future of Seaman Corp headed?
Well, that's an excellent question. I wish I had a crystal ball that I could really tell you what it was like. But all you can do is put things into place that help increase the probability of the growth. What we do is that we definitely want to continue to grow our business, and we want to diversify it to some extent. Even though our children, as I said, are not actively involved with their careers, they are actively involved as shareholders. And we establish a set of shareholder expectations, and we use a facilitator that helps us do that and keep it realistic, because it's based on the strengths and weaknesses of our business and what our experience has been in the past. These shareholder expectations then are shared with our outside board of directors, who then are responsible for selecting the managers to lead the business. We want to drive organic growth. We have certain financial metrics, but we have non-financial metrics around employee satisfaction, customer satisfaction, and product quality. So these are a set of principles and objectives that the management team strives for whenever they do our strategic planning process and our annual business plan. We have an outside CEO. Actually, it'll be our second non-family outside CEO, who started just recently. He and his team have a goal of doubling our business in the next 5 years, which is a pretty aggressive goal. They'll do it organically, and they'll do it through an acquisition strategy. In addition to that, we've been able to set aside some of the resources we've generated over the last couple of decades, and we're looking at making investments in other value-added kinds of enterprises, whether it's real estate or non-core acquisitions that we have. All of these things will be guided by what the shareholder expectations are, driven through our family council, and through a very engaged outside board of directors.
Mark, let's get you unmuted, and I'm interested in the same question for you.
Great, Dustin. The future for us, it really starts with the culture of our family, of our company, and I think the leadership is very well grounded in the current realities and truths that serve as our foundation. I'm a huge fan of Jim Collins, who wrote Good to Great, and Great by Choice, and a number of other books, and he describes the concept of confronting the brutal facts as one of the pillars of a successful business. And to me, that's about hiring the right people with core values, removing the people that don't share those values. And I think that's probably one of the reasons for our success. Our future lies in new products, and we launched 130 new and reformulated products for our customers last year. And before COVID hit, we were on a 12% growth rate, which to me is a little more than what I like. I like a 6 to 9% growth rate, which Jim Collins would call the 20-mile march. Okay, nice steady growth, nothing flashy, but something our employees can count on. And I also believe that the current workforce and the future workforce wants to be associated with companies with real emotions and real values. And I consider that the family business.
Excellent. And Marcella, we'll end with you on this conversation. 100-plus-year-old company. What are you doing in terms of making sure the future is going to lead to another century?
Well, I think you have to speak to the needs of the customer. I think you got to be grounded in that. And again, our families a lot anymore, we're so accustomed to burial, doing services with burial. Anymore families are selecting cremation. So we have to be sensitive to that and open to that. Sometimes we bring our own prejudices about cremation, and may guide a family differently. But we've given our staff training, and kind of always going to conventions to stay up on everything that's going on in our industry. But cremation has just opened the door. And also, we are doing a lot of pre-need. We're focusing a lot on pre-need. So advanced planning is going to be very important. I mean, we've been doing it. My mother was doing it, back in the 60s, really. And there are some of those contracts still in effect. So that's where we're headed. That's where we're headed, to rely more on, get more attention to pre-need and creating that beautiful homegoing that just resonates with people, and that customer service. We've been very blessed. We have staff who have been with us. We have one gentleman that'll be 52 years.
Wow.
This coming January. So whatever my dad filled him with many years ago has just carried him. Most of our staff stay with us. They very seldom leave. So we have that very strong family spirit among us. And that's what's going to carry us into the future. I don't, again, know about the younger generation, but we'll get there, and we'll work on that. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Marcella, Richard, Mark, thank you for joining us today for a lively conversation about family businesses and how to prepare for the future. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, panel. That was great. So now let's meet our next 4 Family Business Achievement Award honorees. First, Mapledale Farm Inc., a 5th-generation business founded in 1874. Started as a dairy and crop farm, Mapledale has expanded over the past century, adding poultry, hogs, and maple syrup. In 1963, it closed the dairy and livestock operations, and in 1982, it started a landscape division. In the late 90s, the company added a supply division for topsoil, mulch, gravel, and other landscape supplies for retail and wholesale. Mapledale, led by President Dave Johnson, has had at least 3 generations involved at any given time. Today, the 5th, 6th, and 7th generations live and work on the farm, and family members with other careers help run the operation as needed. Each generation shares its traditions and business knowledge, teaches best practices, and passes on the family's rich history to the next generation. Congratulations.
Our next honoree is the MAZZELLA Companies. Founded in 1954 by James Mazzella Sr. as Mazzella Wire Rope and Sling Company, it originally made wire rope slings braided by hand, supplying an essential tool to blue-collar construction businesses, ports, and industries across Northeast Ohio. Since then, the company has evolved and grown organically by expanding product offerings and moving into new markets through strategic acquisitions. CEO Tony Mazzella, son of Mazzella Sr., is the 2nd-generation leader of the family-owned company. Since he took over in 1988, he has grown it from 42 employees across 2 Ohio locations to more than 800 employees over 30 locations across North America. Today, his sons, Matt and Adam, are a part of the company and hold senior management roles. Congratulations, the MAZZELLA Companies.
Next, Neptune Plumbing and Heating. As the third generation of leaders and co-presidents at Neptune, Adam and Michael Wallenstein understand the failure rates of third generation family business owners quite well. They were determined to prove the statistics wrong and have thrived, maintaining ethical standards that were set by their grandfather, Sanford Wallenstein, who founded the company in 1957 with his wife, Corinne. Neptune started primarily as a plumbing company, but evolved to meet changing customer demands. It's transitioned from purely residential into commercial, industrial, and institutional work. It's also added prefabrication and a design shop. Now, Adam and Michael also navigated the company through challenging times by further diversifying Neptune's services and adding a service division. So congratulations.
Our next honoree is Pradco. Founded 65 years ago, it is today led by two generations of the Owen Tull family, with Kristen Tull, PhD, as president, and Terry Owen, PhD, as CEO. This company, with a strong family focus, has consistently upheld its values of quality, integrity, service, teamwork, and results, growing from a one-person company in 1955 to 28 employees today in 2 locations. Pradco employees use more than 20 proprietary assessments to help companies select and develop talent, providing talent management solutions to hundreds of customers. It has also offered professional guidance to thousands of business leaders, and in every action, they show they care and they have concern for their customers. Congratulations, Pradco.
Before we recognize our final 4 Family Business Achievement honorees, we'd like to take our second and final interactive networking break. So for the next several minutes, we'd like you to discuss at your tables the impact that COVID-19 has had on your organization. More importantly, what each of you has done to stay connected, foster and strengthen relationships with employees, clients, and suppliers, and any unique initiatives that you have developed. We want you to talk about what's allowed you to stay strong during these challenging times. So we'll be back in a few minutes to recognize our final few award winners.